Welcome to Discussing Tabletop for Feb for 17th, 2018. It is our 66th show. Welcome again to my illustrious guests, Diamond Wyrm and Joe. Thank you once again for joining me as we talk about the world of tabletop and what is new and interesting going on in the world. So this week for you, we have a couple of interesting topics that we want to dive into. First off, I do want to talk about the new, well, unbanded slash restricted cards. Joe, we know a little bit about these cards because we've been around for them, so we want to talk a little bit about what it means. I want to exactly. Talk a little bit about the new Magic the Gathering products and how they're changing their line. Then I want to dive into D&D's Unearthed Arcana, because we're going to be talking about Into the Wild, which is actually really nice, and I'm really happy they've done this. I want to talk a little bit about how Pathfinder is weirdly Pathfinder meets Starfinder. We're going to call it that, and I'll talk about a little bit about it, because I don't want to dive into what I'm feeling about this and why it's a little like, I feel it's strange, so kind of makes sense. I do want to talk about epic level play a little bit, because I found interesting, because I've been following the new edition of Earth Dawn as Aid, how they were discussing saying no one really plays their epic level play in their game. How about that? How many times have you played epic level in D&D or Pathfinder?
I'm back a bunch.
Back in the day, I think I had like one actual game where we actually got there and played it. Other than that, we've hit level 20, but gone beyond that. Then I want to talk about Gurps Banestorm, which most Gurps books are generic, and this one's definitely setting. And finally, about Elder Sign's expansions, because I find that I'm beginning to find them very interesting, because I almost feel like the expansions are very cool, but most of them you can only with one of them, and I'll talk about that. Of course, we have our normal segments with the Kickstarter Korner, our week in the table, and consulting the table. But why don't we dive into the Magic banned and restricted, in which it's unbanded in Modern. Now, just not to get into the formats, Modern is everything of their latest, how the cards look. If you look at very old versions of Magic cards, they had it to them. Modern is current version of it. 2 cards were unbanned: Jace the Mind Sculptor and Bloodbraid Elf. And this doesn't sound like a lot, but Jace is gross. The big thing about him is he's a planeswalker, his big tick down ability, his big ability that he can do, which can take a long time to do, is he can have a person get rid of their entire library of cards, take their hand, shuffle it up, and make that their new library. Which makes them have how many turns left? If this happens, one card, I have 1 turn and then I'm dead, because if you run out of cards in your library, you lose. Now, granted, it's target player's library, so if you have something like I think there's the creature that if you have cards in your library, you win the game. Laboratory Maniac, I think it is. So you could do it to yourself and be like, well, I get rid of my hand, I do that to myself, I win. Now,
it only takes Jace 5 turns to get to the -12 tick down.
That's, I think, why it's really gross, because he gets a tick up of 2, and it's only -12. That's why this card still is incredibly expensive. It has been expensive. It has never dropped in price because it is really good.
Oh, it's even worse. The +2 ticks it lets you look at the top card of the player's library and put it on the bottom of their library. So you can make sure when you do that 12 down, you know what card they have left. Oh, look, it's a land.
Well, no, because that's their hand. Oh, that's right, because you could be like, yeah, you can. Well, the thing is, it's a card, and you're not doing it in a row, so it's not as useful. I do understand, like, it could be like, I don't want you to have this in your hand right now. Or you can have this land, which will be going back in your library. That might be it more.
Yeah.
And the other is Bloodbraid Elf, which is which is actually, I think, it's just the cheapest Cascade. It costs you 4, it's the cheapest Cascade card, and it cascaded into a lot of things, which Cascade is basically you cast a spell from your deck, your library.
In the Lightning.
That's a joke. Because Lightning costs 3, they were both in Standard, so it's Bloodbraid Elf cascades into Lightning! And Cascade, I understand it's a very mechanic, and I guess the return of Bloodbraid Elf with the rest of Cascade, because again, it's the cheapest of them all, so it's the one that you can combo in a lot with Modern. So
Yeah.
And I think the reason that they talk about each of these coming back is because they feel with how things have evolved overall with all the card sets, they can be dealt with, which is fine. And I'm not going to bust them coming back. It's just that I don't know. This is a kind of weird one for things to be unbanned. You know, you always hear about bandings, but things to be returned to sets and stuff, and especially very powerful ones, is just something that is interesting to me. And a little... it makes me kind of like scratch my head about, you know, both why they were banned in the first place and what this will mean for the format. Because I don't play like big competitive Modern. I'm not a big familiar with it the same way. But this is going to have a change, definitely. I'm sure. What will this mean? We'll have like Bloodbraid Elf cascading into all kinds of like burn spells again, and you know, Jace, will it go up in price because it can come back into Modern now? These are questions I have. You know, there are major effects that bans and unbans can have. Definitely to Magic. And these are very interesting ones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything... What do you think about this, Joe, with them changing this up?
I think it's rather weird. You normally don't see cards unbanned it.
Exactly. That's one of those weird things about it.
I mean, you see cards sometimes get banned like right after they come out.
Yeah.
You never see them reach back into Vault and be like, yeah, you know what? We're gonna bring back like Black Lotus.
Well, the thing is, like, Vintage and Legacy, I understand them keeping those things way in the back, you know? And they usually we don't see as much changes in there. I think Modern is more of an evolving format because it is still, like, as much as Vintage Legacy is growing, you have a lot of ancient stuff in there, which is very powerful anyway, you know?
Right.
The Modern has its own things, which is sort of doing at this point in time. And it is evolving as more sets come out and more random powerful cards can be added in and more weird combos can be had. As I was saying, like, you know, the I Win the Game Laboratory Maniac, if you can, like, combine it with a black-blue deck where you're able to discard your own hand or something, guess what? I discard my hand, I switch out, oh, my deck is empty. My next turn, you know, like, I win the game or something, you know?
Yeah.
But...
And it's funny because in Yu-Gi-Oh, Morphing Jar is still banned. which is both players discard their hand and draw new ones.
I don't see that I don't see as much, you know, as to why. Because there's a bunch of stuff like that in Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh banning that, and that's like, why is that so? What did they combo with that with?
To be fair, at least they unbanned like Monster Reborn and Dark Hole, which were they're now limited where you can only have I think one in the deck. But it's still just kind of like Dark Hole is wipe the field both sides, and then Monster Reborn is just draw, just basically take a monster out of your graveyard and put it on the field. That one's actually can be pretty good, but it is limited, you know, now. But still, it's just kind of funny because like they heavy control cards that like just do these heavy control things are still banned in Yu-Gi-Oh. And so it's kind of like, it's funny that they took this one that basically does this but worse to one player and unbanned it in Magic. It's kind of like,
Well, like, the thing is that I think is an interesting difference is that, you know, control is an entire color of Magic in Magic. And I think that's one of the, like, the differences between the card games, and it's kind of, and, like, so, like, limited control, that's all over the place. Like Jace is like the extreme version of it, definitely the Mind Sculpture version. So it is like a very interesting thing that when you compare like the way that sort of the companies try to manage their games.
Yeah, and the reason I'm trying to compare it to Yu-Gi-Oh is because I still have never played Magic.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's a fine comparison. That was a fine point to bring in. That like. And it does bring into another point, is that they're attempting to control the format is something that we're actually looking at here. Granted, like, this is, like, opening up the format a little bit, but maybe they feel like when looking at, like, what's going on with the new cards that are out and being added into Modern, maybe we want a Jace the Mind Sculptor in here, or Bloodbraid Elf into here, because that top end of things that have come out in the Ixalan block and the blocks before that balance out with them in some way that I'm not aware of in the long-term modern format.
Right.
Yeah, but it just sounds like, I mean, it's got to be ways to counter or reverse or just destroy cards that are powerful like that the new format has to have. But it's still kind of just like, there's still this point though where if someone has this and you don't have a counter to it, you lose.
Yeah.
And that's actually why I think it's actually not like the other one where what was it, just the low cost one.
Yeah.
I guess if it does something that's already in the game and it's just lower cost, if they determine that lower cost isn't a bad thing anymore, okay, fine. But the other one just sounds like it's so unreasonably powerful.
See, because they do talk about a little bit, like the Jace they're talking about, they're like, as Modern has evolved, there's more ways to deal with this threat. And I'm like, I don't know competitive Modern enough for you to be like telling me, yeah, there's probably ways to deal with the threat of Jace. I'm like, but like the Bloodbraid Elf one, apparently it's just because in Modern at the time, favoring sets based around or decks based around it were just dominating. So they're like, we need to give other decks like a little bit of
a chance.
Yeah, because Bloodbraid Elf based decks where you could just use it and then throw out some other really like decent or powerful spell very quickly, so you get a creature and some kind of damaging thing, were just gross.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand the reasoning behind the Bloodbraid Elf more than I do Jace. It's fine now that we can walk away from it and say like, yeah, we've had because that was 2013 it was banned, the Bloodbraid Elf. We have had 5 years of more Magic cards to counter this kind of set. So, I think both of them are very interesting changes, and I think that's the thing here, is they're both interesting changes, and one of them I can see as being a lot better than the other. The Bloodbraid Elf, that's, sure, knock it out. Make the decks that were based on it a little bit more popular again. Jace, I'm still just, I kind of, I'm not sure about him, I remember seeing him and being like, this is gross. Because he was one of my early Planeswalker experiences, like seeing something that was like ridiculous. And I was like, is this all of them? It took me a while to learn that, no, Jace is an exception to the rule.
Planeswalkers are still kind of gross in general.
They can be kind of gross, but sometimes some of them just...
Not as broken as him.
Yeah,
no.
They hit a power level.
Another card that's still banned in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pot of Greed. You want to hear its description?
Mm-hmm.
Draw 2 cards.
1 card for 2. I mean, it's not like...
That's nothing in Magic.
I know.
Yeah, this one I feel like it's people still I think a lot of people wonder why this is banned.
Mm-hmm.
Like this one is not nearly as bad as some. Like I can see why, like, wiping out someone's hand can be really good, or, because it wipes their hand but allows you to get a new hand. So you could ruin someone else's strategy and at the same time reset yourself. That has a decent amount of power to it.
Yeah.
Wiping the field could be really powerful, although this is no longer banned. I actually kind of don't understand why this is no longer banned. But the Dark Hole, which would just wipe the entire field.
Yeah.
That is very good, especially if you are undermatched.
Oh yeah, but
and
drawing
you need
2
a reset.
cards is not that powerful.
No, not even in Yu-Gi-Oh! There are cards that do worse in Yu-Gi-Oh! But this is still banned. I don't know why.
I think it's sometimes like things like boundings and restrictions, they don't look at them as far. Like occasionally, like with this one, modern format is becoming a little bit more popular, so they're looking at stuff in modern. But Legacy and Vintage, no one gives a flying rat's patoot about either of those really in Wizards of the Coast. They are there to respect players like me who have a bunch of cards from then, but they're never going to look at any of the cards from those and say like, oh, this is no longer broken, or this is broken. They're never going to say that again.
But maybe the greed could have been a really nasty combo at the time when it came out, and they
totally. Well, at the time when they banned it, yeah, at the time when they banned it, it was really powerful because this was one of the first cards in the game. And at the time, the fact that it gave you 2 cards with no cost was very powerful. Nowadays, things have a lot of costs and balances, and that's why things like Monster Reborn, just bring back a monster, was powerful, because now it's like, bring back a specific type of monster, but now they've, but there's certain things where it's just kind of like, but it's funny because they didn't unban this when they unbanned Monster Reborn and Dark Hole, which in my mind are way more powerful than just draw 2 cards.
Yeah. It might have just been an overlook.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's gotten us into a very interesting discussion on banding and unbanding cards and CCGs, but I do want to have us move
on. I miss that mechanic.
Thank you for that, Joe. It's quite a mechanic. Anyway, I do want to move on, though, because I guess we could kind of dive into this a little farther, but it is an interesting topic of conversation. Banning and restricting cards in organized play and CCGs. And I think it's something that we probably want to hit on a little bit more at some point in time, because it's definitely been an interesting one. All right. Now, I do want to talk about another set of announcements. Because, well, first off, Magic's announced a bunch of products. All right, that seems normal. They announce products all the time. They've got things. But we've known a few things. The Dual Deck series, which I have enjoyed, is ending. We now know the From the Vault series is apparently ending. And I have seen a follow-up tweet on this that apparently the person that was talking about it is that From the Vault isn't dead. They're just not planning any products for it in the near future. So it's sort of like, it's as good as dead. Oh, I'm frozen? Shoot. Let me turn off my video on and off. Let's see if that works.
Yeah, seems to work.
I don't know why I get frozen like that occasionally, because I still have it on in my background, so I should be fine, but...
Yes, now you're fine again.
Weird. They're now
Yeah, because I looked at the stream and we weren't frozen, just you were.
Yep. So they're apparently...
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The From the Vault, it's as good as dead. They're replacing it with something called Signature Spellbook, where they're theming it around... the first one is around a Planeswalker, which are facing around Jace. So they're basically giving, like, 1 foil card and 8 premium cards that fit with the Planeswalker's identity. Now, granted, it's $20, but From the Vault was like 40, and it was twice the number of cards. And they were, like, really nice premium foil cards. And if these are
I still don't think I'm going to spend $20 for 9 cards.
If it's all really good rares, which would be more expensive on their own, maybe. But yes, I have my own, misgivings about it. Then we're getting Battlebound, which is Two-Headed Giant. We haven't heard about actual Two-Headed Giant in any kind of products ever.
They haven't done anything with any of the alternative plays very much.
Yeah. We got lucky. They decided to do things with, like, where they're like, we're going to make Elder Dragon Highlander into Commander. That was cool. That was a format that fans came up with, and they're like, here it is.
Yeah, Commander wasn't bad, and also Plane Shift.
And Plane Shift was like an alternate, and they have sort of experimented with Arch Enemy some more, but
yeah, they've never done anything with what the heck is the other one? The larger format. You have one person in the middle, and you have the people on the side. Emperor, thank you. My brain just died there.
No, that's fine. No, you're right. They haven't really done anything with Emperor either. There's a lot of Magic formats which exist, but aren't really looked at ever.
And Battlebound's going to be 254 cards.
Yeah. I mean, because it's its own product made to be specifically 45. And they're supposed to be legacy. They're supposed to be legal in Commander, Legacy, Vintage. That's awesome. As Legacy Vintage player, that's awesome.
Right, and also Commander Anthology, and then a new Commander is coming out, so they're still going ahead with Commander.
Oh yeah, the Commander I think has been very successful. They've managed to make it incredibly successful.
But I'm really surprised about the dual decks that they're stopping those.
I can't remember. I think I've heard about the product that they're replacing with, but I can't remember what it is.
I guess the last one's going to be the one that's coming out in April, which is Elves vs. Inventors.
Yeah, I think that's technically the last one. Now, I do like what they're doing with two Planeswalker decks, as they call them. That they're doing foreign language, centric ones, and then making English versions of the products. I will totally buy their Chinese specific Planeswalker decks when they put out the English versions of them. That seems cool. That's a really interesting product. That's something different. And I'm curious as if they're going to follow like Portal 3's legacy. Because Portal 3 is a product no one talks about, and it was made for an Asian market. It's totally like Legends of the Five Rings, the Magic set.
Okay.
Yeah, you've seen stuff from it? They didn't have flying. They had horsemanship, which is flying with a different name.
Oh, I think I do. I vaguely remember that.
Yep. There's like some cards from it that are really expensive, like I think like Zodiac Dragon and stuff, because it kept coming back. So, I mean...
Just one touchback. I was looking up why that Pot of Greed card was banned. I was curious what people had to say about it. Mm-hmm. And the consensus seems to be that it's because it's just such a very nice standard card that if it wasn't banned, every deck would have it. And they didn't want to have like a meta that... you didn't want a meta that required a card in your deck.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because there was nothing as good as it, basically.
Yeah, it was a very simple, straightforward, just draw 2 cards. No drawbacks, no other activations. It's just draw 2 cards. It's just a meta that they didn't want to have to they didn't want you to have to win.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say you probably didn't need it to win, but most people would assume you needed it to win, kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, now I have a question here, because I'm looking at the Battlebound stuff.
Yep.
So it's saying, market sales price is going to be approximately $3.99 US. So is this like basically a set that's going to be?
Yeah. It's basically kind of like how they did with Conspiracy, was specifically made for draft games with special conspiracy cards. Probably it's going to have the 85 new cards. A bunch of them are probably going to have mechanics on them that help out you and your team. Because I think there has been some other cards that I've seen in the past that are like, you and your teammate, or things like that, or you and any other players, that mention teams. They do show up.
That's what I was just looking at, because I'm like, is this going to be I wasn't sure if it was going to be a set, or if it was going to be just like a box.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be a set.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to figure that out, too. Because it was like,
Well, just looking at the price, I'm like, well, $3.99, that must mean it's packs and not...
Yeah, packs and not big
like
things.
a pre-made decks or anything.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to see what they're doing with it, because apparently Unstable did a really good job. And, all those years they took about it made it so much more popular than the previous ones of that type of sets, the silly sets. So great for them that maybe they're going to try out some of these more weirder things because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, one more thing about it. It's also there are very few cards that allow you to draw more cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! As well. So it's not a very strong meta, I think is what's part of it.
Gotcha.
It's like, so it's basically, it is the best draw card still, which is weird, but...
Indeed.
Indubitably.
Indubitably. I don't know why I keep saying it like that. But anyway. So it does seem like we are going to see some interesting things here from Magic, definitely, if that's kind of what we're going on with. If the two-headed giant one is successful, I'm all for that. That seems like something cool if Battleband is successful. I mean, like, I haven't gotten any unstable cards. I'm happy they've been successful. I kind of feel like I should get some at some point in time still. It's one of those ones that I keep... I was glad to keep up with the normal sets at this point in time, though. But anyway. So, the new sets are indeed... Or the new products, something to keep an eye on. Interesting. Different.
Yeah.
Why don't we move on, though, to D&D Into the Wild? So, Into the Wild is the new Unearthed Arcana for D&D, and if you're unfamiliar with Unearthed Arcana, you're new to us or to learning about it. It's effectively a specialized piece of information that Wizards of the Coast, the people that do D&D, come out with. That's basically their playtest material. They're like, we can include this in a book in the future. Here you go, check it out, learn about it, get interested in it. This is probably not going to be the final version of it, but this is what we're working on. And I have seen some of the final versions of some things in books that have come out, and they do tend to be like along those lines or pretty close to it. Sometimes it has a lot of work done to it. Sometimes it doesn't have a lot of work done at all. So it depends on what you got. And this is an interesting one because it's expanding upon wilderness adventures, wilderness traveling for your players. It's basically adding in like a different layer of how you can build your wildernesses to use them for your encounters with your players and streamlining it in a way that they didn't have in the DMG.
Yeah.
Yeah, based around Unearthed Arcana.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Xanthar's Guide.
Yeah, Xanthar's Guide. Wyrm, you have a lot of strong opinions about this. Why don't you lead us in what you're thinking about this first?
Yeah. So I really like. So I am relatively new to DMing, and GMing or whatever you want to call it. So it's like I have, and one of the things I find the hardest to do is to organize a campaign, which is why I really like stuff like this, because it helps you think about, and you don't even have to follow it, but it helps you think about how to organize aspects of your campaign that otherwise, might elude you, or you might not consider, that can help add to your game, and that aren't very complicated either. And that's why I like this kind of thing, is like, it's just about wilderness travel, like, when they're looking for something, what are the chances of that? What are their DCs for foraging? What are DC, then there's like other effects you can have, which is really fun, way to think about it. For example, they give an example of one they built using these rules, and it's like Moon Hills. It's touched by the Shadowfell and the Feywild, and has influences of the plane of Earth. And so it's kind of like you can roll to determine, every time they sleep in an area, you roll a d20, and if it gets a 17 or 18, Shadowfell influences causes nightmares, disturbing visions, and regain only half spent hit dice. 19 Feywild influences grant vivid, exciting dreams or visions, gain inspiration. And on a 20, Earth influences fortifies, strengthen flesh and bones, gain temporary hit points equal to your character level. And it's like, these things are fun. They're like little boosts or ways to build your world a little bit more intricately without a lot of extra work.
Yeah, I mean, the chance of something happening is slim, but it's cool that there could be a random effect from this area.
Yeah. And so it's kind of just like, it's a bit of fluff, which doesn't take a lot of effort, gives mechanical effects, because sometimes fluff is fun, but honestly, players, when encounter just fluff, they're like, and they quickly forget about it. Whereas this is like, oh, okay, yeah, so this place really is influenced by the Feywild, because it's actually, I have these weird dreams. And
yeah.
I like how they break it down with their example, which gives you, they give a summary, they talk about navigation, they talk about the planar confluence, their special thing, and they talk about the terrain in general, which you could easily, be like, okay, it's filled with hills everywhere, it's got scattered trees everywhere, occasionally got the boulder fields, the ruined watchtowers, the Shadowfell influence and Feywild influence, those are just 5% of the time you're going to hit those. But I like how, each of those terrains is listed separately. So you could be like, oh, okay, I'm definitely going to have on anywhere on the map, hills and the trees. Everything else after that,
I totally want to find the Lost Gate of the Laughing Path. It just sounds cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing too. It gives you ideas for DCs based on how hard something is to find. So where is it? Oh yeah, so like DC, no DC destination is on a clear road, trail, or well-marked path leading to it. 10, destination lacks a path but is in open terrain. 15, destination lacks a path but is in dense terrain such as forest or mountains. DC 20, destination is hidden with active efforts made to conceal its existence through mundane means. And then 25, destination is hidden using illusions or other magic. DC 30, destination is hidden using powerful magic such as regional effects that cause the forest trees to slowly shift and force characters into the wrong path.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it gives you ideas for DCs for people who are trying to search for something, which is fun. And the thing is, it's not necessarily, oh, you're not going to find this, unless, of course, it's like DC 30 because you're just not supposed to find it yet. And that's basically, in my mind, what that is. DC 30, you're not supposed to find this yet.
Yeah.
Well, I like that they give the foraging rules, too. That they just get that little sweet... It's like on the Moonhill summaries, it's so simple. It's DC 10, water and light game are plentiful. Just a simple thing. But it says so much about your characters adventuring in this area. You know, and like when they talk about like all the dungeons, settlements, ambient mood, all that kind of stuff, that adds a lot. So definitely, you know, using the information they're setting out here, it's basically building it for you that you get all this information together. And guess what? I have built myself a interesting terrain my players can explore. And it doesn't seem difficult to do with what they're saying here. You know,
no, and also the breakdown of different ability checks, like athletics, history, nature, stealth, and survival.
Yeah.
Yeah, about like where you might use them in navigation or just in the terrain in general.
Yeah. It's very nice what they've done here. They have definitely made it a easier to build wilderness areas, I will say.
Yeah. And there's also this point.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say. Well, I'll let you go first.
Okay. I was going to say, but also with these basic things, it would be easy to do. You know, you have a basic path that you could also use it for other types of terrains too. I think it gives you an idea of, oh, this is how this can be set up easily. You know, I changed some of the stuff, and now I have basic rules for maybe a special city of mind or something. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just going to say, it's also kind of funny because you think about it, it's like, don't forget, like, lair effects for creatures. You know, it's a funny thing, but it's like, you don't always think about it as a GM until they're actually going to face the monster. You don't think about the regional effects.
Yeah.
You know, because those regional effects are supposed to come into play. But I personally kind of forgot about it until I read this. I'm like, I actually need to start applying those to people because there probably should be regional effects for some of the stuff I have. But
yeah, that's something that I think I haven't gotten into any of my games yet, so it's like unfortunate that I haven't forgotten it. But it's also one of those things of like, yeah, you should keep these in mind because they are important to think about.
Yeah, and like definitely I should have some of these ambient effects or whatever because you guys are like in Bastion Frontier, you guys are literally in a place that is the capital where like there was this storm that was created by a deity to protect its people that has faded for like, and that has like, I mean, it's basically like there's definite magics about, that should probably affect you guys in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, almost like Curse of Strahd has those built into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think it's sort of like I feel like their big adventures are also almost experiments with certain things, and they learn a little bit about their own like building material, like how they can build their worlds. And then when they bring us this stuff like this is like they're influencing themselves. They built the DMG, built some stuff, and they're like, oh, this is some improvements we can do now that we've seen that this works better.
Yeah, especially when like some of their original stuff I found really funny because when like Chris Perkins, they're like basically the Wizards of the Coast official GM. He basically does everything for them when it comes to like DMing, and even helps like write some of their books. He was like, yeah, I don't use the encounter rules. They're like, I don't set up encounters based on difficulty or calculate. No, that's It's just like they're not good rules. I don't use them.
Yeah, And I think that's one of those things about that's actually with a bunch of role-playing games is the balancing factors that you're going into with encounters and stuff, and everyone's always trying to do it, you know. And that's an entirely another quagmire we could dive into anyway.
Yeah, and as a result, though, they touched up a little bit on it in, Xanthor's Guide, making it a little bit better. Not, like, a ton, but it is better than it was. Like, they just give you ideas of how to balance around challenge ratings a little bit more abstractly, rather than just saying, here are the numbers, here are the things, and here's how you calculate things. And they're just like, be smart about it. Here's some ways to vary it up a little bit.
Yeah. So, it's an evolving system, which is good. I think that's one of the major things I feel about Dungeons & Dragons, at least 5th edition, that has been a little bit more appealing for people, I think, too, is the system itself seems to be evolving. We have the published books, but we're getting out this material, which is improving the stuff from those published books and, changing things oftentimes for the better as we see, this is stuff that would take, like, you have to switch from 3.0 to 3.5 in the past. Now it's just, I think it reflects, the difference of the kind of systems we're in now. It's like comparing it to another entertainment medium, video games. It used to be just like what you got is what you got. And, now, and then it was like, oh, once in a while they might have a big patch. Now it's like you can have constant little tiny patches for games because you're so online with them. They're always getting little updates. And I feel like this is a good version for role-playing games, too, because each of these has their mechanics and their networks of rules in place that you can find bugs in. It's the same for role-playing game. You can find bugs. It's just that usually it's like...
And it's
a little bit more subtle and different, than the way you would in, like, a video game.
And it's actually kind of funny. Most people don't know this, but actually the Player's Handbook is actually... that you can buy right now is actually like the second version of the Player's Handbook, because the original, when it came out, had a lot of bugs. So if you bought it early on, there are actually some things which are actually have been changed now, particularly some spell effects, some wordings, some of the abilities and stuff. So it's kind of funny because it's like there is actually like two versions of the Player's Handbook.
Well, I have a first edition, so I might have those problems.
I want to see where it says. I know I have the second edition, but...
It's on the page across from the contents.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm just trying to see, like...
It's towards the bottom, it's under the pictures where I've got mine, where it says it. First printing.
I don't have mine handy, so I can't see.
I got mine really early, so it would make sense as a first edition.
Well, mine says first printing. This printing includes corrections to the first printing.
Mine does not say that. So, Yep. Mine just says first printing, August 2014. Yep. Nothing about corrections. So.
Yep. So yeah. So that's what I mean. There's an update to that. So it's kind of funny because it's like they even did that to their original book.
Yeah.
The thing about now, though, is that now that they have kind of more of a solid foundation, they need to... These Unearthed Arcanas are a really good idea because they're basically like updates that they can then gather together and put out in a book when the time comes, which is, I think, is a good idea because, when it comes to published things, it's harder to just release patches,
Yeah. And this is a great way to play test each of these little things. It's sort of like, here's a play test. Everyone in the world... test it for us.
Yeah.
And
Wizards is pretty good about listening to feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like a week later than after they put these out, they're like, here's the questionnaire. You can talk to us about what happened, with how you've liked it or stuff,
Yeah.
Anyway, Into the Wild. It's a really cool one, and if you are a DM and you want to increase your wilderness encounters, I highly recommend this. Even as a player, you might want to check it out because it might inspire to get into some DMing at some point in time. So, all right. I want to move on though because we do have a couple more topics I want to handle, and I want to talk about Pathfinder map pack, where it's effectively a Starfinder map pack, and for some reason it's still Pathfinder. They put out Pathfinder map pack Starship decks. Okay. Now, they're claiming it's whether your player character is exploring a strange technology or kidnapped by aliens. It's like, okay. So why didn't you just say this was Starfinder and then said this could also be used for Pathfinder adventures where you're doing these. Because this is more Starfinder than Pathfinder.
Well, I'm okay with the idea of saying, because Pathfinder map packs are a thing, so I'm not, unless they have Starfinder map packs, I'm not surprised. They do have Starfinder map packs?
Yes. They started putting them out.
Okay, I'm confused too.
Yes! That's exactly my point. It's like, but you have Starfinder ones.
I mean, I guess they wanted Pathfinder to not be left out?
I mean, they do have, like, the technology guide that is technically Pathfinder that's supposed to be used more for, like, you discover, like, an Atlantis or something, and it's got hyper technology in it, you know? Some kind of ruined civilization that has ancient technology. Or there are space races out there that could land on your, you know, normal Pathfinder games. They do talk about them. So it's not impossible. It's just very oddly specific for a map pack. And I feel like, again, you could have just said, this could also be used over here. Just use it for Starfinder where it's more appropriate and where you're more likely to use it.
Yeah, it really depends on some of the feedback I'm wondering about with the difference of Starfinder. Because maybe some people are like, I don't want to deal with Starfinder, and they just don't. So they're like, okay, well, we'll release this over here so people still have it. Is my only logic for why they might have done this, is that they're like doing it so people don't have to go to Starfinder to find these map packs.
That's true.
But it's kind of like, still, I feel like even still they should have said, if you want more technology-based things, go to Starfinder. You know, like they could have done a like, okay, here's a Pathfinder one that's technology-based, but with an annotation saying, we have these for Starfinder as well. Go here if you want more.
There's like... It's like, I feel like the only reason that I can see, you know, playing the devil's advocate here and saying, like, why would I put this out? Maybe they're trying to get more Pathfinder people on the Starfinder side. Maybe Starfinder isn't exploding like they wanted it to.
Yeah, or maybe they're just trying to do some crossover material.
And crossover material isn't bad, but again... This could be Starfinder crossing over to Pathfinder, which makes better sense in my mind, rather than Pathfinder that also could be used in Starfinder, because that's where it's more appropriate.
Yeah. I don't know. It is strange to come out with this as Pathfinder,
yes.
but I said, like you said, and I said, you know, maybe it's crossover stuff trying to promote Starfinder more to Pathfinder people.
There's one other thing. So, Pathfinder has, okay, I think I might know. People who are subscribed to the Pathfinder map subscription, do they also get Starfinder maps?
I don't know.
Because if they don't, it may be a way to appeal to people, because it says that, no, this product is part of the Pathfinder map subscription.
They might want to put people into the Starfinder map subscription, which is probably their own thing, because they sort of have separate... They treat them as separate but equal, it seems like a lot of times. They're like, you know, things.
So it's entirely possible people were complaining that when they released the Starfinder map packs, being like, well, we already subscribed to the Pathfinder map pack.
Mm-hmm. Right, why do we want to subscribe to another map pack set?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and maybe they wanted a little bit of the same thing from their map pack subscription, because I guess...
Starfinder map ongoing subscription is a separate thing. Just looked it up.
Yeah.
It's probably in reaction to that. People who are already subscribed to Pathfinder go like, we don't want to subscribe to Starfinder for the Starfinder stuff. They're like, fine, we'll release some of this in Pathfinder.
Right.
I think it's still an odd reaction overall. Because
but then in that case, just release it in both.
Because it's better to do one product than two. I mean, it's granted, what would they change? The name on the outside from Pathfinder to Starfinder? But I think it's sort of like, then they're worried that people might complain probably about, like, oh, we already have that in Starfinder. Why are you doing this? You know?
Yeah.
I think they've reached a point in time where it's definitely a no-win situation as soon as they hit onto this. If they continue with basically like, we can convert Pathfinder to Starfinder, Starfinder, Pathfinder, but they're separate, which is what they seem to be talking about at first. They're separate worlds. They have this, well, they're separate games. They're the same world. You can convert between them, but you have to convert. Keeping them separate was a good idea. This is connecting them too much. They're getting into a quagmire they shouldn't have stepped into. Whatever. We'll see how it works. If this is the only if this is the only toe they put into the water, that's fine. But I'm worried seeing this is basically my entire thing too.
I'm not, because once I realized that the Pathfinder map subscription and Starfinder map subscription were separate, it's basically a response to people complaining, but we don't get we already subscribed to the Pathfinder map subscription. Why do we need to subscribe to this to get more stuff? You know, it's like kind of like they're like, fine, we'll give you some futuristic technology like stuff that you can use if you don't want to subscribe to the other one.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other one still has more stuff that's more useful. It's just here's a little bit.
Yeah. Which is
kind of try and appease people.
That's just the thing. It's appeasing people. It's not always the thing that's like a great idea. I'm glad they're trying to appease people, but that's not always the best idea either. So
Agreed. I actually feel like this might cause more issues. I think they should have just stuck to their guns and been like, no, we have these separate. I understand you want this, but if you really want to do Starfinder, you have to do this other thing. You know, like this. I feel like what they're trying to do is kind of appease the Pathfinder people who are subscribed to Pathfinder and be like, fine, we'll give you some ship stuff, but it's like, well, now they're going to be like, oh, well, then why do you have this? You know, it's going to be a lose-lose situation, and I just feel like they shouldn't have listened to the little complainers.
Nope. So we'll see what comes of this, is what I'm going to really say about this entire thing. If this is all that comes of it, great. I'm happy for it. If more comes of this, I guess we'll talk about it later. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Pathfinder and Starfinder. I don't know how well Starfinder is doing overall, because that's kind of a hard thing to tell with RPGs, I have to say. How well is an RPG doing?
Especially when they're part of a company that's doing other ones, you know? Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like, well, they're kind of the same thing. How do you tell how well it's doing?
Yeah. Like, the only one I know is doing very well is D&D, because it's like you hear about in a lot of places. It's the big explosion for 5th edition.
Yeah.
Other role-playing games, I never know. That's an interesting topic that maybe we'll save for another day. How do you know what's a popular RPG and what's not?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I do have a couple more topics we still want to cover, so why don't we move on, because we are getting pretty late into it. I do want to briefly talk a little bit about high-level play again. Because the fact is, it came to mind for me when I was reading up on Facet Games' latest insight about they're putting out a Earth Dawn companion for the latest edition, which is going to be talking about high circle play, because they have circles which are similar to levels. They're a lot more complex to go into. A good comparison, if you have any idea, like White Wolf has werewolf ranks, or vampires have generations, if you're talking World of Darkness a little bit. You know, there's different ways to judge power level. Getting into the very high level ones is difficult. They were saying they don't go beyond like 9th circle, and they're putting out information for like 12th circle. You know, and that's very different. It's sort of like talking about 20 plus level play in a D&D game or a Pathfinder game. Like Pathfinder just says, look to the old 3rd edition AD&D or D&D rules on an epic level. D&D, I think, just sort of mention. I know they mentioned it somewhere.
What D&D says is, okay, you reach 20th level. That's it. Continue by just playing at 20th level and give little extra boons here and there.
Yeah, they're like, let's just skim it over. You know, they're just give the like the epic boons and stuff. You know, that's right. Which isn't a bad way of still giving rewards without the levels. It's just, it's delaying it a little bit. And again, it's getting into power level play. And I think that's something that is very difficult to do in any game. It's like Besom with like 1,000 points to spend or something. Or playing at like, starting at 5th circle in Werewolf, or being like a 4th generation vampire. Something ridiculous. It can happen, but When do you want to dive into games like that?
Yeah. And, like, I worry, like, honestly, I personally, as a GM, really do worry about high-level play, because high-level play starts to get really weird, because players have the ability to start to derail you really hard as a GM.
Yeah.
Especially when you get into things like wish spells and, those kind of things where it's just like, sure, you can wish to kill the enemy who's spying on you. It's kind of just like, you go like, okay, let's figure out how to handle this. You got to think about the hubris and the wish, and then you got to like start to work things out, and it's kind of like, it becomes kind of almost a chore in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's also the point where it's like, okay, like it takes, according to Xanthar's guide, like 9 level 9 CR2 creatures is equivalent to 1 player at that point in time as well. It's like, that's a lot of creatures.
Yeah, it becomes harder to balance. And I think...
And that's CR2, and there's not a lot of high CR monsters in the monster manual.
No, and I think that's another kind of weird balancing act. Like, I think a good example is, because high-level play can definitely become unbalanced. I think my best example of this is in the one Pathfinder game I had. All the other players, perfectly fine. One player managed upon a combination of abilities that made him really gross. I will admit, he did not take full advantage of this. But this was perfectly legal stuff. He became
Are you talking about me? Or... No.
No.
Okay.
Transmuter. So he used spells like Disintegration. And then, at high enough level, he could always maximize it.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Okay.
So then, you have... If I have 8th level spells, I can literally memorize them all as Disintegration. I have 10 maximized Disintegrates a day. Something ridiculous like that. That kind of ridiculous damage, that does ridiculous amounts of damage. Now, I think D&D it works a little different for Disintegration, but it was straight damage in
I could think of one worse than that, Matt.
Well, other things were just broken anyway. This was technically not a broken system, though.
No, but I mean in high-level play of someone abusing stuff.
Well, Justin found breaks. We can't use him as an example because he took breaks.
No, I'm thinking...
Oh, yeah, so basically, like, I have a friend, Daniel, who basically does the same thing.
Yeah.
He basically finds ways to break systems, and he tries to use them, and I'm just like, and I basically just tell him, like, honestly, if you're going to do something really crazy, let me know that you can do it ahead of time, because if you pull it on me in the middle of nowhere, I'm probably just going to slap you in the face back with it somehow, as a GM. I just hate when, because he has this mentality of, like, I'm just going to fling it out there so the GM can't stop it, but I'm like, that actually makes me stop it. But I'm like, just let me know you can do it, so that way when you do it, I'm not caught off guard, and my instant reaction is not to counter you.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's what, like, our friend Justin, that's why I don't play with him anymore, because he finds those little break points. Like this for Chad, this was a bunch of simple things that were all perfectly legal, that you wouldn't think of being really gross together. But a maximized Disintegrate is just gross.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had the one character that, was third party, but reined it in too.
Yeah, reining it in is
The
always a fine
Artificer
thing.
for Pathfinder.
Well, that's still the class was broken to a good degree, and that's still using something broken. So it's not a great example. Like at high level play, you still maintained it. It's just that when you look at high level plays, the example of the Disintegrate is it's basically you're getting into something ridiculous very easily. That was like 15th level play that he was able to master this. I think he needed to be like 15th level to do that.
Right.
And that's still like, but then it's like, you could think about it, it's like, what can I throw at him that can live through that?
But see, back in the day, we did play a lot of higher level games, though. We haven't done that in a long time. That we started off as like a mid level character and got to high level.
I have to complain a little bit, because a lot of times when we got to that high level play, we always were like on the edge of life and death because the encounters were never balanced.
Yeah.
Chad is good at winging out random encounters and throwing stuff out at us, and that's his special skill.
But that also made it
unbalancingness.
But sometimes that also made it more epic. Like, oh my god, we survived that.
It did, but it was also frustrating. I remember, like, now we look back at it nicely. I remember thinking about it at the time. I'm like, we were getting tired of it at the time. It sucked.
Oh, I'm not saying all the time it was fun, but you know, so at times it was like, oh wow, we really survived that really difficult challenge.
It was a lot of luck and skin of our teeth, and that's not a good balance for an encounter.
No,
the encounters, story-wise, yes, some of them were epic, but they were set up that way. I'm sorry, you know, if we survived the encounter regardless, it was set up as an epic encounter. You know, that was epic story-wise. The mechanics of it sucked.
Not to mention, when it comes to, like, you mentioned mechanics, my brain was thinking, like, also, like, how do you work into a world these high-level characters? It's actually funny, because I have actually very specifically thought about my world in that mindset, like, what happens when players reach very high levels? Well, that's kind of the whole point of, like, becoming deities, and you guys have even encountered that in Bastion Frontier, people who are attempting that, people who have done that. It's part of the story, it's part of the world. And that's kind of what I built into it, you know, like, it's almost something that will happen if you become level 20, you know, it's like, if you become level 20, you basically have a choice to, like, do I want to become a deity? You almost can, like, just choose that at that point. But that's because I believe that at that point, you know, when you're able to cast spells like Wish that just alter the fabric of reality, you're basically there anyway.
Right. Well, I think the last game that we really reached that high that I can think of was Chad's one game, and we did become gods in the end. We replaced all the gods. We ended up accidentally killing half of them.
Well, just because we destabilized their worshipping base, so they lost all their powers, and they were consumed by some kind of other being that used its combined powers of horrible creatures in order to consume them.
Yes.
Anyway, evil game, we got pretty high level. We were at the last book when we were doing evil game.
I wouldn't mind doing another high-level campaign. It's been so long.
Yes, I'm just saying high-level campaigns aren't bad. It's just they're hard to run.
Yes.
I have tried to do stuff with them. They can suck to run. Because players also have like a billion options. Even in D&D, they have a billion options.
Yeah, we can pull things out of our butt pretty easily, and it's like, oh, I forgot you could do that.
Yeah.
It's also why, generally, in my mind, once you hit level 15, your players should be fighting deities, because basically they're the only things that can counter the pull out of your butt stuff, because they can also pull things out of their butts because they're deities.
Yeah.
Like, there's almost this point where it has to be world ending at that point, because it's just kind of like, beyond that, it's just too simple. Like, oh, here's this guy who has these very specific rules who you're trying to fight. Okay, well, you know, let me just divine the nearest person who has the alignment of evil and just stab them. You know, it's kind of like, or whatever, you know. I know that's not like actually a spell, but it's just still kind of like that same concept where it's just like, I can do this stuff now.
Yeah, I agree that when you hit that level, it becomes very difficult to come up with a challenge, too. What makes sense for this level of play, you know? And it gets more world-shattering, world-ending, and that's one of the things I do like about the DMG is when they talk about, you know, it's like, as you level, the time in between adventures should increase. Because it could make sense. It's sort of like, maybe there are a couple of world-shattering things I encounter at my 15th level. They might be decades apart. You know, it's sort of like, oh, this ancient evil comes up. We spend decades down in town just doing stuff, and then we go back to adventure again, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense because, I mean, if there's world-shattering events like every other week...
yeah, then you're really terrible
at some
world.
point... Well, I think at some point you're going to be like, why am I still adventuring?
Well, I mean...
I'm never going to improve this world.
The other excuse is planar adventures. You can come up with some ridiculous stuff with planar adventures, too, you know? And
planar adventures are cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind doing another adventure in Sigil.
It's actually fun because in my world, the elemental planes, earth, water, air, fire, they're actually moons circling the planet.
Cool.
They actually are what determine the seasons. Spring is when the earth moon is dominant. Fall is when the air moon is dominant.
Yep.
I decided to work that into my metaphysics. I don't think I've really explained that before.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
But, so, I mean, this is a topic that I think is a very hard one to give a really good answer as to if you should play high-level play or not. It's like, if you feel like you're a skilled enough DM to master it, just be warned, it sucks to build encounters then. You know, Joe, you've played in high level. As someone that's built it, it sucks. Trust me. It's hard to do, hard to balance, it's a challenge, and you really have to be aware of your player's abilities. It's sort of like, Roll20 is great because you can always look at your player's character sheets. That was something I always wanted in the past, was like, can I get a copy of your character sheet so I can see what's on it? Roll20 has that advantage of like, oh, what's on your character sheet?
I would say the closest to high-level GMing that I've done would be in my own system.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was even difficult, and I went a little wacky.
Yeah. So, high-level play. It can be fun. Crazy. Hard to run. All right, we do want to keep going because there's a couple more topics I want to handle. I mean, we're getting a little late in time. Do you guys want to just skip out on Banestorm for now? I want to talk more about the...
We can skip that one.
Yeah,
that's fine.
It's an interesting one. It's just the only thing I want to talk about it with was basically that Gurps came up with more of a actual setting rather than a generalized book which they normally come with, which I thought was, weird.
Yeah. We could push it to next week though.
Okay. We'll see if there's an opening next week. We'll try to see if we can put one in there. So
especially since they haven't very properly announced it either, so maybe
it's like it's existing yet not existing, and it's the weirdest thing about it. So, anyway, why don't we move on into the last one I want to talk about? Elder Sign: Omens of the Pharaoh is the latest expansion that's out, and this is something I've noticed about Elder Sign and its expansions for a while. The first expansion that they had, Unseen Forces, integrated with the game perfectly. The next one, Gates of Arkham, it would basically add a new layer to the game. So it's sort of like I could play with the Gates of Arkham stuff. Omens of Ice, Omens of Deep, and Omens of the Pharaoh are all effectively the same thing as Gates of Arkham, but they take the same place. It's the same layer. And I'm not saying, like, there's certain things from the games you can't integrate with it. Like, new adventurers, new, Elder Horrors to fight against, new monsters. Those things are easily integrated usually, but it's the fact that, like, the essence of the game, the cards you're using to do all the little adventures are completely different in their own things. I'm no longer in a museum. I'm no longer in the Gates of Arkham. I'm now in a frozen wasteland, or in the place where I'm going deep in the water, or I'm in Egypt. So I can't play with them to the full same degree. And there's just something weird about that I haven't noticed that until now.
Yeah. I don't see this as an issue because it's kind of like pick your flavor.
Yeah.
In fact, even games that have expansions like Catan. I have the Cities and Knights expansion of Catan, and it's kind of sometimes fun still to play the generic version. It's like, well, it integrates it, but it's kind of, so it's like you get to pick your flavor. It's just variations of the same thing, which isn't a bad thing in my mind.
No, it makes the game more replayable too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, let's try it with these rules this time.
I do agree to a good degree that this is definitely not a bad thing per se, but it is such, like, if we compare it to a lot of the other Arkham Horror sets of games, it's something unique to this one that I haven't noticed before that they're really doing. And I think that's kind of why it stands out in my mind a little bit more. Like, granted, you don't need to play the original Arkham Horror with, I think, there's two extra boards you could play with. You don't have to add those in. You can play the main one, and most of the stuff from those sets integrates just perfectly fine into the Nor one, like 95% of it. These, I would say, are more like 66% of the stuff probably integrates pretty good. So it is a little bit of a difference there, the integration, but it's sort of like, and those, it's just you're playing them with the normal map, and they're more difficult. That's it. Sort of like with them, more difficult. And I think it was sort of like I almost was like caught off guard because they had the unseen forces, which was a perfect integration one. It's like you just play it with that. Now, granted, they do have a smaller expansion, which I didn't know about, which I'm just noticing now, of Grave Consequences, which gives phobia cards and like epic and some other stuff into it too. I didn't know about Grave Consequences, a small expansion, until just now. So they do have another one, but then they have those like 4 which are overlaid on top of the game. So, what else did I want to say about this one? Just my thought patterns on it a little bit. It does seem that they're at least trying to be different with the places. Like, you have Arkham, like the actual city of Arkham. You have a frozen place, you have a watery place, and you have, like, the Egyptian desert. I like that they have variety, so I do agree with that's a very good thing, that I could have my Elder Sign adventures in a desert, or in the city, or in, like, the frozen wastelands of the Arctic. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think it's actually I think the expansions are fun, and the fact that 3 out of the 6, you can play with 4 out of 6 at once.
No, you can play with the 3 expansions and the main one.
Unseen Forces, Gate of Arkham, Grave Consequences, and then one of the
Gate of Arkham.
Right?
The Gate of Arkham.
Oh, sorry, I'm an idiot. I was thinking plus. I was adding in the base game to that in my brain.
Yeah.
So 3 of the expansions. Like I said, 4 expansions, but I wasn't. I was thinking of the base game.
Yeah.
So 3 expansions plus the base game is what I meant to say.
Yeah. And like Grave Consequences is only like a half expansion for their normals because it's $13, so I'm assuming it's like much smaller, and that's why I haven't noticed it yet.
Basically, it's just 3 cards decks, which adds something to the game that do stuff.
Yeah.
Which is a bad thing, extra cards and extra stuff, adding new layers to the game that you can add into any of your games is always cool. That's one of those things about all those ridiculous expansions for Arkham Horror, which I have like all but one of the expansions, and I rarely play Arkham Horror because it takes forever. Elder Sign can take a long time. Not nearly
and just
as
the
long.
setup, it takes forever.
Oh, Arkham Horror, yeah, the setup on that one takes forever too, because you have to figure out what you're doing with what. It's sort of like, okay, you have it mostly organized. Am I using this fully? Am I using that fully? But that's an entirely another consequence about the entire game community there. Elder Sign, it's an interesting one. I think it's, again, I will agree, not a bad thing, different, and something I don't think we do see a huge amount. I don't see this hugely. It's more like, it's the same way that, like, I could play without the unseen forces of Arkham Horror, of Elder Sign. I think that's why, yes, Knights and Cities and original Catan, you could play them together or separate, but I think it's more like what it would be like Seafarers or regular, because then you can layer Knights and Cities on top of either of those.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little bit more the skin lift, Skin lifts. They add to a game. or like, I was going to go somewhere with that, but I'm forgetting what it is. Anyway.
Stop lifting my skin.
Either of you have anything else to add to this one here?
No.
All right, why don't we move on to our regular segments for the week? We're, of course, starting with our Kickstarter Korner, where we talk a little bit more in depth about some Kickstarters that are out this week that you think that we recommend that you should check out and see if you're interested in it yourself or not. But we'll give you a little bit of information that can give you an idea of where to start looking at it. Why don't we start with Joe this time? What you got for us?
Okay. So I'm just going to give a shout out to one that I saw that looked really cool, but I'm not going to go in depth about, which was Planet Apocalypse. It's a board game where basically hell has come out onto Earth. It looks really cool. The miniatures, everything is very well done. It's a bit on the expensive side. They have 9 days to go, and they probably aren't going to make their pledge goal. Oh no, they made their pledge goal. I'm sorry. Their pledge goal was 100,000. They're at 294,961. So they've almost done it right times 3.
Cool.
But the one I want to get into that I saw is Princess Bride, the role-playing game.
Oh.
Wow.
It actually looks like a really good system.
Okay.
They have
Link.
Link, please.
Need to look at this.
Oh yeah, sorry. Give me a second. And they do have the downloadable starter rules and everything, as well as character sheets. The link is right there. They're at 32,130 out of their goal of 45,000. They already have 400 backers, and they still have 25 days to go.
Cool.
And you can get the digital version for a pledge of $25. It's a D6 based system.
All right.
And they also use fudge dice, which I actually have never played a game that actually used the fudge dice.
It's fun.
They also have grandpa weight tokens that you can earn throughout the game, which are really interesting to add addition to the rules. It's basically, say like someone just died or something just happened in the game that you really want to change. You can pop out of the game and the DM's like the grandfather reading the story to the grandson, and you're the grandson. You're like, Grandpa, wait, and you hand the coin over and be like, that didn't really happen to him, did it? And you might be able to convince the DM to like let you re-roll or do something different so
That's
the character
wonderful.
doesn't die or something. So I like that, the meta part of the game too. As far as abilities, there's 3 basic abilities. There's heart, wits, and give me a second. Hearts, wit, and body. So attributes. So it's very basic. It's more of a skill-driven game. Everything seems like pretty basic. And the thing is, the only time you have to really get into dice if you're doing something like elaborate that the GM I think we need to figure out if you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's more like if you just want to walk up to a bartender and be like, hey, I want to talk to him. It's like, okay, you don't have to roll. Say what you want to say. But overall, it looks really interesting. I think it really holds towards the spirit of the movie.
Yeah.
And one of the skills is Blave.
Blave.
To Blave.
He means...
Gambling and
bluff.
bluffing. Yeah, gambling, bluffing, whether to gamble or not. Be careful, failure of this skill can make you end up mostly dead. And that's the other thing is, on the character sheet, with your wounds, there's scratch, hurt, very hurt, incapacitated, near death, and mostly dead.
Wow. Nice.
I'm not completely dead, just mostly dead.
Mostly dead.
But some of the expansions they're looking at doing look interesting. Like they have, I'm just scrolling back down. They have the Thieves' Forest expansion, Gilder expansion, and then there's one other one that they haven't decided yet that that may be available. But your main adventure is taking place in I don't know what the heck's the name of it. My brain is dying right now.
Isn't it just actually the land of Gilder, and they're going more in depth with it, with big maps and stuff?
No. It's not taking place in the land of Gilder. It's taking place where they were going to, which was where he was kidnapping him to, and I'm trying to remember.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember the name of that either, because I'm forgetful anyway.
Yeah, my
with an
brain's
A,
dying,
right?
and it's... What?
Doesn't it start with like an A or an A sound?
I might.
Trying to find it. I don't know why I can't find it.
I'm trying to look too, and I'm not being successful at finding it either, so I'm just going to say, hoo-ha.
Hoo-ha?
They might have something on the like quick start rules or something.
Well, I have the quick start rules too, and I'm just being horrible right now.
That's fine. It's fine. No, this is a very interesting one to bring forth to light. I like the looks of it. That's kind of cool.
It's
Florin?
Florin.
I got it just when you did.
Yeah, you get the map of Florin with it.
Ah. Excellent.
So one of the expansions will be doing adventures in Gilder, where it originally starts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So Princess Bride RPG up on Kickstarter. Got 25 days to go, so pretty good amount of time, and they've certainly gotten a good boost of their percentage of the way there already. So I mean, they definitely could reach it with the speed they're going at. So
Yeah.
cool.
But I still love the grandpa weight tokens is my favorite part.
Wyrm, what do you have for us today?
So, I have... Oh, it's Princess Bride. I want this one. It is called Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master. This is based off of a... apparently this guy made a Lazy Dungeon Master guide a while back. But this one focuses a little bit more 4-5E. Because the last one he made was I think for like, I don't remember. He didn't actually specify in here anywhere, from what I could tell. But yeah, it's basically just a way, and this goes off of basically why I like the Into the Wilds thing, is because it's basically just a guy who has gone through, and he's actually apparently talked to a lot of DMs. Like, I think he said he's like interviewed like 1,000 DMs or something like that, which is an interesting number. And just kind of gotten a lot of input on how people run their campaigns, and then he basically wrote up this book to kind of help guide people into how to build campaigns both quickly and effectively to basically make, to build the campaign to where you're prepared but not, caught off guard. And I actually backed this because I want it. And so it's kind of like it's only $8 to back. It's already funded, but it's $8 for the PDF version if you want to back it, which is nice. There's basically just a very simple, and as he said, it's already written. Just all the money he gets goes towards making it look nicer. Basically paying for art, people to lay it out and edit it, publish it and that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So it's a pretty nice, simple one. Yeah, I recommend it.
Cool. Definitely seems an interesting one.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's hit like all of his stretch goals so far.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, there's create a review a character. Like here's his table of contents: reviewing your characters, outline potential scenes, define secrets and clues, develop fantastic locations, identify important NPCs, choose relevant monsters, select magic item rewards. Our preparation notes so far: reduce the checklist, other high-value preparation activities, preparing our Lazy Dungeon Master toolkit, reskinning, which is actually, in my opinion, a very good idea to go over, reskinning creatures. Mm-hmm. That's something I've always thought about doing, but I've never I've always had trouble thinking about how to do something differently. So that'll be a fun chapter. Building a lazy campaign, running session 0. That's something that is often hard, especially for a new DM. I know I didn't run a very successful session 0. Top traits of a good DM: flexibility, creativity, and improvisation. Thankfully, I have those skills, but it's still good to read about what they think of him. Yeah. That's the only reason I'm a pretty decent GM from the get-go. I'm pretty flexible and good at improvisation. Ask players to summarize the last game. I actually do that already. It also gets players I know why, because it gets players thinking about what happened last time and gets them back in the mindset. It's a good idea. Dirty tricks for group storytelling, improvising NPCs, improvising scenes and situations, using multiple combat styles, maintaining the pace. That one's a hard one, I know. I try and do that, and I fail every now and then. But I actually am not bad at keeping pace in the way I want to. I'm probably only one game behind where I'd like to be in Bash and Frontier overall. Mm-hmm. So that's something that comes a little bit more naturally to me. And that's kind of the thing I find, is that the reason this is nice is because some parts will come naturally to you as a DM. The more you DM, the more you realize what you're good at. And this is really nice because it can help with things you're not as good at.
Yeah.
But then there's also DM brain exercises, embracing, dirty tricks, final thoughts, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like a nice like way to organize yourself, and that's what I really want, is because that's where I suffer, is organizing my notes.
Right.
So I'm excited for this when it comes out in like a month or whatever, month or two.
Cool. All right, so it is up now on there.
Yep.
All right, for myself, I do want to give a couple quick shout-outs to some interesting... I just think they're interesting. First off is, I think we only, maybe mentioned it once before, is Octung Cthulhu. Modifius is apparently, partnered with someone to make a tactical action RPG based on it for, a video game. That's kind of cool. Which is they're, Nazis are summoning Cthulhu, and you're, a part of the allies trying to fight against them. That's
not Cthulhu.
Not Cthulhu, yes. So that was interesting. I do want to give a shout out to the Hidden Halls of Hazakor. This one is the entire idea of helping out DMs. This one's a really good one too. It's a first level adventure written for a DM that's their first time DMing, and it's also written in such a way that's supposed to be good for younger DMs. So if you're teenager, 12, 13, 14, you want to start DMing, this is an adventure you would probably want to check out. It just hits funding goal, so they're going to have it out. It's something that would help out, you're new to the game DMs, basically. And the one I want to talk about, because I find it really funny and kind of hilarious, is Animal Ailments, actually, which let me link this in chat, because it's a very, funny little game that I thought was very interesting. And they have 24 days to go. They're nearly about 60% of the way funded. It's basically a miming game. It's charades, but in a funny little weird game. So it's a party game that kind of caught my eye, because it's basically you're supposed to mime out an animal and then mime out an ailment for it, and the people have to guess both of them. And they're weird combinations. Fun. Yes. So it's you could have a car-sick kangaroo, would be what you're trying to mime out, and you're supposed to do one after another. And different animals have different point values, different ailments have different point values.
Dizzy dragon.
Yeah. Or brain freeze gorilla.
Yep.
So it's definitely you get a red and a green card combined together, and everybody has a minute to try to guess after you're done, and then it moves on to the next player and kind of keeps going along. And there's other things you can do. There's steal cards and things like that you can do to get points from other people too, and special cards, and it's up to 15 points wins. So there's a little bit more than just the simplicity of the gameplay, which I like too, because it depends on what cards you get, which is really cool. So it's got the simplicity for kids, and then got a little bit of extra layers for the adults. So you could have this at any kind of party. And I think that's what brought me into the interesting about it, because it is a very good family-friendly party game. So, you can mimic out that hyena with a hangover you were always thinking of being. And let's see here. And for about $17, you get the full game at their special discounted price, I guess, for the Kickstarter. They'll probably charge you a little bit more for it when it actually is up then. So, yep. But you can pledge more too. They give you options for various pledges and stuff. And they got some, and they will have a not safe for work expansion too if you want to just have it for your adult parties.
Of course.
They always would have. You always have to have something like that for a game like this, for a party game.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So. All right. I don't think I have much else to say about it. I just wanted to kind of push it forth again because it was a cute little game that I thought was very interesting. And it was only supposed to take 30 minutes to play, which is also I like about a quick party game, because then I could either move on to other ones or play it again.
Well, let's be real. It's one of those games where you basically just go until you're done.
Yeah, you can be well, now the point value is X, so we can just keep going, kind of thing too. If you really want to.
Or it's basically just after we've been doing this for 15 minutes, one last round, and then whoever has the most points wins.
Yeah, that seems to be always how it ends up for things like Cards Against Humanity and Super Fight and stuff like that, which are similar kind of things. But I do like this is a little bit more it's charades, but clever charades, and I think that's why it attracted me a little bit too, because I don't, as as I don't mind doing the charade parts of things like Cranium, and that's why it comes into my mind. All right. Why don't we end up into our second to last segment? Of course, we've got our week in tabletop. Since we started with Joe for the Kickstarters, we'll start with you, Wyrm, for your week in tabletop.
Did Amber City last week. Things are kind of crazy, and players actually have a good chance of dying next game, so that'll be interesting in a week from today. But yeah, we explored a spring, kind of found out, or finally discovering what the four springs do. They have effects. Not entirely. I'm still really confused. I need to go back and really watch the episodes. It's a really mind-boggling. Like the GM's really good. He basically made it a very big puzzle. Basically, it's basically like what he built. So it's kind of fun. To be fair, the way he draws off of like tropes, he literally loves TV tropes, and he'll just basically like pick tropes to go off of or other things like that. So it's kind of like. One of my friends one of the people in that game, John, he's a little bit better at figuring things out because he knows the tropes. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, so we ran into some, like, darkness creature thing. One of the friends drank some dark sludge material that he found, which is always a good thing.
Is this like me, like, scooping the stuff and pouring it into my jar of, like, dead, horrible mutant?
Kind of. It's more like you making a soup and then throwing it at people. And then be like or it's more like you making a soup and go, it's delicious! But it's just kind of like, I wonder what this does. Let's drink it to find out. So yeah, that happened. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Definitely have to think about that this week, actually, just to kind of see how... I need to think about how my character is going to act and how things are going to go.
Cool. Anything else?
Bastion Frontier, but I'll let you go into that.
Yep. Cool. Joe?
Well, we did... what was that one on Monday?
Quarias, yes.
Quarias. Which was a lot of fun.
Quarias was fun. And I recalled how this is the first time I've actually played through a full game of it. I remember setting it up previously and never really playing it.
Yeah.
The second
game,
game,
I like it.
The dice were definitely with me.
Yeah.
Yes. The second game, you just dominated.
Yeah, sometimes that happens where the dice are just with someone and you're just like, well, there's really nothing we can do about this.
Yeah.
That's the thing about dice games, and,
Yeah, sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. Then last Saturday, what did we play? We attempted to play...
Dragonfire,
yes. And we had to go back and review the rules because we were getting our butts kicked because we were doing so many things wrong.
Oh yeah, we played that game really wrong. It was fun to try playing it, but just we hit this like weird wall with it, and when I checked over the rules, it was like it wasn't like major problems, but it was like 4 or 5 small details that, when you think about it, would have given us an advantage. And since we didn't do those, the enemy had the advantage.
Yes.
Ouch!
We all pretty much died.
Yeah.
And then we switched over to, I think, Unfair, didn't we?
Unfair. Mm-hmm. Unfair is always fun.
Which James dominated his first game of.
I thought he got second.
Oh, did he get second? Did you win? Okay.
Because I had the 2 turns where I just scored $1 billion worth of money, and I'm like, I have no need to worry about money anymore. I can buy everything I need.
Though, did the most impressive blueprints.
Yeah, he did the most impressive strategy because he had a huge pile of blueprints and managed to fill out he got all but one he was successful on. I don't know how the heck he did that.
We really thought he was going to just like get so many negative points because he had 5 blueprints?
He had 8.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. He scored over 100 points worth of blueprints.
Which is difficult.
Even with the -10. he scored over 100 points.
Yeah.
So he was missing one card to be 20 points over. I don't know if he would have matched me then. I think he would have been very close to me.
Yeah, but that was an epic game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the only thing I had differently was then Bastion Frontier, because we didn't have a chance to continue our Full Metal Alchemist game because Tiv was filling in for someone at work this week. So yeah, for Bastion Frontier, we defeated the Were Raven and we didn't kill him.
Thankfully, you guys.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I did not think about Moonbeam. I completely forgot about that side effect of Moonbeam.
That it reverts him back to normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because it's kind of like, oh right, I guess that's one way to fix that and actually discover things, which I wasn't. I mean, you guys obviously. I think you guys knew at this point. But it's still kind of like a point where it's like, there were definitely possibilities for you guys not to have gotten it. Your characters, at least. These players knew that they were were creatures.
Yeah. And then we went into the orc ambush, which they were the worst assassins ever, and I'll continue to preach that. Because they're just like, we're going to go up as a group and just smash you all at once with axes. And I'm like, where's the assassins? And then the orc hordes that were outside trying to burn down the town,
Well, burn down the hut without regards to the town, but yeah.
Yeah, but now all their heads are on nice pikes outside of town in order to scare away their fellows.
Yeah, to be fair, the thing about the house being on fire, it was actually it was so funny because it's like, I was not expecting him to go and be like, I'm going to throw this I'm going to go out back and check out things. And I'm just like, huh. I was expecting you guys to just stay in there until I'm like, by the way, the building is on fire. Yeah. And then you'd be like, oh. But that didn't happen, so it was kind of just like, and then G-Man actually saved you guys' butts with that because he was like, oh yeah, let me put that out.
That was a really good plan. No, I was fine with that. While the rest of us tanked the orcs, which we didn't have the best strategy. I will agree to that one.
You didn't.
Nope.
Not to mention, though, the dice were on G-Man's side. Like, there was like, oh, he didn't really help out, which is why he didn't hit. Nah, I hitched through a decent amount at him. He just kept winning.
The dice were not with me for some of those rolls that day. It was just sort of like...
Some of them, no.
Miss. It's like, strategically, it's like, oh, I can quickly get this kill and not have to worry about it hitting me, and I miss.
Yeah, I mean, I personally did try and play pretty tactically, and I did try and down you guys. There's only one point where I thought about where it's like, yeah, the war chief wouldn't have expected you to get back up. He was just trying to maul you guys, and it's just like, okay, well, Tiv, you get advantage because it is a surprise attack. He was not expecting you to stand right back up.
Yeah.
And that actually probably saved you guys. That blast that he gave.
Yeah, he's a good damage dealer as a warlock.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess that's it for our week in gaming then. I don't think I did anything else. At least in tabletop gaming. Why don't we move on to Ask the Table, our final segment that we usually have here, Consult the Table, where you guys can ask us questions either in chat or you can leave in the comments of either Gather the Roll or this video when it's up on YouTube. You can also contact us at any of our Twitters, on any of our Discords. There's a lot of ways you can ask us anything related to tabletop games that we might be able to answer for you and help you out in any kind of way related to the topics at hand or something else. If you just have some random question related to D&D, Pathfinder, World of Darkness, to a board game or something else, go ahead and ask it. We are here for you, and I totally have this cat on my lap.
We may not know everything, but we know a lot.
Yes, between a lot of us.
Yay!
Kitty, 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 kitty song. All right.
God.
I'm going to just stand here with this cat now and stop my kitty song.
Stream cat!
Stream cat, best cat. Stream cat,
but no
best cat.
stream niece today.
She's been distracted, fortunately. Stream niece being distracted is the best thing that I could have asked for, because then I don't have the terror of destruction coming upon me at all times.
Summon the terror of destruction. Darn.
It doesn't work like that. Anyway, I don't see any questions. I don't see up any on our Yahoo, because I do have a Yahoo also. It's at discussingtabletop at yahoo.com, where you can also contact us about, well, that's the one way of doing it. So if there's any way to contact us about any level of questions, you can just ask about us. And also, if there's ever anything about any of the topics at hand from either this or Gathering the Roll, also ask them. We'll answer them when we're either talking about it or like here. Even if it's a simple like, oh, yeah, yes, no kind of question. We'll take your questions, help you out. Anyway, I guess that's it for today. So why don't everybody kind of tell me like who you are, where can we find you, what kind of things you do. We'll start with you, Wyrm.
Okay, I am Diamond Wyrm. You can find me on my channel, twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm. I'm trying to do 4 o'clock streams Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, which includes today, so you'll find me later at 4. Every now and then I'll skip one because pain or something else, normal things, but I'm trying to keep up a slightly higher schedule than I used to, so that'll be a thing. Beyond that, you can find me on my Twitter. It's at DiamondWyrm on Twitter, and yeah, I think so I have a Discord, but you'll have to go to my channel and link down below for that. And yeah, and then you'll find me on Tantus's channel on Thursdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we usually hang out Mondays, Thursdays, and now. And I'm also on your channel on Wednesdays. Yeah.
And sometimes other days just because.
Yep, whenever we figure something out. Joe!
I am just going to promote you, so you can promote yourself.
Yay! I am Dracovin. You will find me here daily, very least in the morning for the morning stream, and then usually there's something else in the afternoons later on, whether or not it's on my channel, or as I said, I could be joining with Wyrm. Expect more shows in the future. I am planning out a whole bunch of them on the Twitch side. I have a YouTube channel, the Dracovin Empire, where you can check out all the VODs for everything I have up here on Twitch. Plus, you can also check out some... Welcome, new citizen of the Empire. Oh, hello.
Yeah, it was me.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Okay. I finally linked my Amazon Prime account.
I was saying where I have some scripted content, which I also put out over there. I have the links to Discord and Twitter in the chat below. If you want to show extra support, you can also follow here, subscribe on YouTube. Please, if you're watching and haven't subscribed on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. I would like the time period where I am not monetized on YouTube to be shorter than it could possibly. I have to get to 1,000 subscribers for that to go away, to come back, because of the change in policy now. So please, it's not a huge money that I earn from YouTube, but it helps me to buy great things like new art for RPG shows or new thumbnails for stuff on the Empire. That's where the money goes right now. So if you want to help the Empire to improve, that's a great way. I also do have a Patreon. You can also subscribe here like Joe did. That helps out. I would definitely recommend doing the same to help out Wyrm there. So lots of great ways you can support us. Thank you all, though, for everyone who stopped by and joined us for the show. Hope you're having a great weekend, and we'll see you all on Monday for our normal time streaming schedule, and especially we'll see you all here next week, same time, same place, for more tabletop news and great things to talk about. So, everyone, have a great day, and we shall see you later. Goodbye!
Bye!